What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody out there is doing great, staying safe, staying out of trouble, all that good stuff. This is not a trucking video, so I'm not going to give my normal trucking response or my normal trucking intro that I normally give. This is a topic that I hold near and dear to my heart. I believe it's wrong, and we shouldn't be treating people this way in the United States regardless. And it saddens me that this situation's happening in the United States. Not just here in Texas, but it happens in other states as well. But we're going to be talking about Texas today. One thing I ask is that if you have a platform at all, any kind of platform, YouTube, Facebook, whatever, please share this out. Share it. Make a video on your channel. Talk about it. I'm going to be leaving links to everything I talk about below. There's also a lady out of Wisconsin who's doing a lot of good, working really hard to help these guys. I'm going to link her information down below so you can get information off of her website as well, or contact her if you're interested in helping at all. I'm also going to tag a few channels that I know are into this type of stuff so that they can talk about it on their channels. Try to get it out there. Don't let Texas sweep this under the rug, because this is exactly what Texas will do, is sweep it under the rug. Texas is real good at doing some messed up stuff and keeping it hidden from society. There's a lot of things that go on within the prison system in Texas that is never heard about in the streets. It's kept out of the news, and we're going to get into that here in just a second. Also, I'm going to be reading some things from an article about this. I've sent a few letters. I'm going to be probably take me a couple months, but I'm in the process of getting statements from men who are currently serving time in ADSEG, okay, within the Texas system. They're probably going to talk about it a little bit. They're going to describe some things they've seen. And when those letters come in and I put them all together, I'll make another video and put that stuff out. I just sent some letters off yesterday, so we'll see what happens. Plus, I've been talking to a couple of people who just recently came home that are both former, that did all their time on ADSEG as well. First, what is ADSEG? We call it ADSEG, ADSEG. It's administrative segregation. It's when they move you from population and they put you in a cell by yourself. All right. These guys get, they get a shower every now and then, single man cells. I believe they get 1 day or 1 hour a week outside in a cage alone. They're stripped of all human contact. They don't have any human contact. They're stripped of all that. These guys, they live in a cell 23 hours a day alone. They don't have any social interactions hardly. They contact with anybody's gone. There's no contact with anybody or anything like that. This can have a serious mental effect on people. It creates psychosis. It creates schizophrenia. It can also decrease empathy because you no longer have that socialization with other people. So in essence, it can make these men worse than they were before they ever went to prison. Doesn't that defeat the purpose of prison? Doesn't it defeat the purpose of prison to make a person worse? That makes no sense to me. Not only that, but that's torture. When you take a man and you take away his ability to socialize and all that stuff, that's torture. I thought we didn't torture people in this country. It's mental torture. They're not physically touching them, but it's still mental torture. And I thought we didn't allow that in this country, but it's gone on for many years, and it's gone on for far too long. Now, earlier this year, there were some groups that formed up and decided to do a hunger strike. The Mexican Mafia, Aryan Circle, and the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. On January 10th, 318 members began doing a hunger strike. It lasted a total of 25 days. Several men had to be forcefully fed. But it lasted a total of 25 days before it finally just completely went completely out. It was kept pretty quiet. All this stuff they didn't let it out there. Not only that, but you're going to see when I get into this article here in a minute that they stopped these men that were participating in this hunger strike from any media contact. They were not allowing them media contact. They did not want this information out. That's why it's real important that y'all talk about it on your channels, talk about it on your Facebook, talk about it on your Instagram. Do not let this die right here, please. All right, please do not let this die right here. Let's get it out there. Let's get this information out there. Let's let people know what's going on. These men are in the system. They're doing time for a crime that they committed. 100%. You know, for the most part, there are some innocent people in prison as well. But for the most part, most of them are doing time for a crime they committed. And here's the way this crap has been working in the state of Texas. If you are a part of an STG group that they deem a security threat, they pull you from population, they put you in administrative segregation. You don't have to do anything wrong. You just have to be a member of that group. That's it. You know, within the prison system, they have gang investigators. It's their whole job to find these gang members within the population and remove them. So you can be in population for years. It happens sometimes where guys are in population for a long period of time. They don't do anything wrong, but maybe a letter gets found somewhere or somebody snitches on them about being a part of a certain group or what have you. And they'll, gang investigators will go get the goon squad. They'll go grab that convict, roll him up, and send him to seg. That's the way it goes. He may not have done anything wrong. May not be extorting anybody, may not be involved in drugs, may not have even had a write-up, may not have been in a fight, nothing. They'll go grab that guy and roll him up simply because he's a member of one of these groups. Here's something that I found really odd. I was doing some research in the last few days. And on one of the websites, they have the gangs, the main gangs in Texas, and they have them listed, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, threat groups, right? You know, because I'm not going to say the name of the group because it just wouldn't be right. But the number one group, the tier 1 threat group that's on every one of them lists, is not in ADSEG. They're in general population. And they are the largest group in the state of Texas. And if you're from Texas, you know exactly what group I'm talking about. But they're the largest group in the state of Texas, and they're not in ADSEG. Now, here's why. The state of Texas says in order to be one of the groups that they separate and put into AGSEG, first you have to be violent. Your group has to show a propensity to violence. And number 2, your group has to have a written constitution. That's what's kept this one group from being locked down. They don't have a constitution. They're violent. They're involved in everything. But since they don't have a constitution, they're not locked down. Another thing is, the groups they have locked down are no longer the largest by any means. You know, you're talking within the whole system. From the numbers I saw, it's less than 1,300 people throughout the entire system. You know, so I mean, you're telling me that 1,300 people throughout these organizations are the threat to the entire prison system? Get out of here. Now, here's the other thing. Anytime they develop a program in the state of Texas, they allocate money for it. So whenever they started locking these certain groups down, putting them in ADSEG, they created a program for that. State of Texas allocates money for that. It's a money laundering scheme. That money's going through there. It's going into some politician's pocket. That's the reason that they don't want it to stop. That's the reason that they don't want the media to know about it. That's the reason that they do not want y'all having any knowledge of what the state of Texas is doing. Well, Snapper, I ain't going to stand for that. I know a lot of these other brothers out here ain't going to stand for that. And I hope you don't stand for that either. It's wrong. Now, some of these guys have been in lockdown since the 80s. Like, for one example, ABT has been locked down since 1984. Known members, keyword. Known members have been locked down since 1984. Texas Mafia, those guys have been locked down, I believe, since the early 90s. Mexican Mafia has been locked down since the 80s. You know, and there's a bunch of other groups that have been locked down since back in the 80s and early 90s. Once Texas deemed them, they put them on the list. They start pulling their members out of population, putting them back there. All right. So some of these guys have not had human contact since the early 80s. Here we are in 2023, and some of these guys have not had human contact since the early 1980s. Think about that. Put yourself in that position. All right. I understand these guys committed a crime and they went to prison, but what grants them signing up for torture? That's a whole nother thing there. I don't agree with torturing people. I don't agree with treating people unfairly, and that's unfair treatment, in my opinion. Now we're going to get into this article here and talk about it a little bit. Let me bring it up. I got it on my other phone here. All right, now this hunger strike went across several units. Trying to remember from memory because it's not in this article, but it was Polonsky unit, Coalfield unit, Stiles unit, Estelle unit, Clemens unit. I believe that's Ferguson. I think Ferguson participated in it as well. So it was 318 inmates total that participated in this hunger strike. But let's get into this right here. All right. Now this article here, it's from the Texas Tribune. I'm going to link it. It'll be linked down below. It says, we are humans back here. As Texas hunger strike wanes, prisoners speak out against solitary confinement. Texas prisoners launching hunger strike to protest state's harsh solitary confinement practices. As the days went by, the number of men participating in the hunger strike quickly tapered off. 3 days into the protest, TDCJ reported 72 men were refusing to eat. A week later, the number dropped to 38. It's hard. It's hard to turn down food. It's really hard to turn down food when you're in solitary. When you're in seg, eating is something you look forward to. Not only that, but the contact with the person actually putting the tray through the slot, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it means something to you. So it's really hard. Not only that, but you're already suffering from different mental ailments from being stuck back there. On Monday at lunch, 3 weeks after men stopped eating to draw attention to their treatment, the last man who had continuously refused food for the entirety of the strike began willingly eating again, according to TDCJ. The prison system has clamped down on communication with prisoners participating in the hunger strike. The agency is refusing all media interviews requested with men, according to Hernandez, citing security concerns. That's the umbrella they put under it to stop them from having media contact. They cited security concerns. And this is what he said. By allowing the interviews, we feel we are allowing them to organize and further cause disruption, is what he said. By allowing the interviews. So that's the way they control it. And they're good at controlling it. The Texas system is real good at manipulating it. And they're real good at it. They've been doing it for years. Instead, prisoners can only communicate through a lagging prison mail system, which sucks. Because if you say something in your letter that they don't like, that letter gets thrown out. It'll never make it. Whoever you send it to will never get it. So if you're making a good case for getting rid of this solitary confinement or indefinite solitary confinement, which is what this is, they're just going to get rid of the letter. It'll never get to where it's going. So it's another way for the prison system to control what's happening. Joshua Sweating, 42, is housed at the Coalfield unit. He has been in and out of prison since 2000, most recently serving 8 years sentence for attempted home burglary. According to prison records, he is set for release in 2025 at the latest, and he is currently serving his time in Ag Seg. I've been in solitary since 2004 over a label. I've seen good friends lose their minds back here. I've seen countless people take their lives. We are humans back here. We have no way to try and change. No education, no drug treatment, no anger management, nothing. I can't even explain the way it feels to just be forgot about by our government. It's more mentally damaging than anything. That's sad. That's freaking sad. Here's another one. This is not about trying to run to prison. It's about humanity. It's about us being treated as humans and given a chance to prove we deserve to be treated as such. And that was Jose Guadalupe Lucio, 45, is housed at the Ferguson unit. He is serving 25-year sentence for murder, according to prison records. He is set for release in 2033 at the latest. That's something else everybody needs to consider. These guys that are being stuck in solitary confinement and the state is taking their minds from them, they're 80% of them one day will be free again. They're going to be living next to you. They're going to be living next to your kids, next to your grandkids. Only now they're going to be living next to you, your kids, and your grandkids with the mental disabilities that the state has given them. In my opinion, in my personal opinion, all these men that have been in lockdown all this time, they should be able to sue the state because they're causing these mental issues. And that's just my own opinion. This is a psychopatient making factory. In other words, they're making patients. They're making psychiatrist patients. That's all they're doing. It's not doing anything. It's just the state of Texas wanting to control them, you know, to initiate more control on top of them. I could go on and on and on with this stuff. But like I said, I'm going to link this stuff down below. I'm going to link this lady that's working really hard to put an end to indefinite solitary confinement. Not saying solitary confinement shouldn't exist. Nobody's saying that at all. If a person does something that deems them to go back there, well then, by all means, put them back there for whatever the punishment time is. But there should be a punishment time on it. There should be an amount of time, a restricted limit, not an indefinite limit on it. Because that's what's causing these guys to lose their mind. It's making them worse than they were before they ever went in the system. And that isn't good for you. That isn't good for me. That isn't good for them. These are human beings. They're human beings that might have made a mistake in their life. But they're serving their time out. All right? They're in there. They're already taken away from their family. They're already taken off the street. We don't do torture in this country. And if anybody with the state of Texas sees this, you should be fucking ashamed of yourself.